So I want to get into maybe potentially the last big free agent signing for basketball this summer, DeMar DeRozan going to the Kings.
Yep.
What were your initial thoughts with that? How much of an upgrade is he from Harrison Barnes, and how do you like his fit with De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis?
You know, I'm honestly conflicted for multiple reasons. I'll be honest. For one, DeMar DeRozan, player for player, is a much better player than Harrison Barnes. Right? Harrison Barnes is a good basketball player, by the way. Very, very good pro. DeMar DeRozan's a multi-all-star. I mean, there's a stat that came out the other day that he's like 200 points behind Steph Curry or some shit like that. It's like, whoa, I didn't know he scored that much. He's played 100 more games. Valid, but still, that's a lot of points scored. It's like 23,000 points.
Yeah.
He's a big-time player. So in that aspect, it's an upgrade. So then you go, okay, player for player, DeMar DeRozan's better than Harrison Barnes. Upgrade. Let's talk about fit. If we're talking about fit, you know, I think with Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and the pick and roll and everything that they have going, you need shooting around them. That's why they have Kevin Huerter. That's why they signed Monk to $70 million or something like that.
Yeah, and Keegan Murray's untouchable apparently to them. They did not want to give Keegan Murray any deals this summer. Yeah,
and they've made that clear over the past couple of years.
Yeah,
Like
he's on the select team for Team USA. So people like Keegan Murray. He had that crazy game last year. We had I think it's 12 threes in a game.
I'll be honest with you. I don't see him as like an all-star type player. So I don't know the whole. It makes me laugh when I hear some of these teams like he's untouchable. We won't trade him.
Well, there's famously been some untouchables in the past.
And then you were like, what's going on?
Remember the Cavs wouldn't go for Amar Stoudemire. That JJ Hickson was untouchable at one point because LeBron was on the Cavs. There's some untouchable guys sometimes.
And then a year later, they're just completely touchable. You know what I mean? So it's just it's so funny when I hear that from teams. But whatever. I think Keegan Murray's a pretty damn good player. I don't know if he would be untouchable for me. He's not an all-star or anything like that.
I think he just complements other star players. He's one of those guys
Which gets me to my point. They have shooting all around them. DeMar DeRozan is a many things on that basketball court. A bucket, very athletic, dynamic, fun player to watch, all these things. Is he a shooter? Absolutely not, especially from three-point range. So then you ask yourself, where does he fit in the mold? I think he helps them close games.
Absolutely. Okay, that's what I was going to get to. Him and De'Aaron Fox are always in the running for clutch player of the year.
You have that dynamic. Again, upgrade. That's where you do. You put the player in the team, then we start writing pros and cons. Pros, great scorer, can help close games, et cetera, et cetera. Cons, he's going to be problematic with spacing and shooting. He does not shoot the three ball well. You can gap and load if you're guarding him. If I'm up top on the left side of the wing and I'm guarding DeMar DeRozan and De'Aaron Fox has it on the right side, I am in that middle and I am hugging that gap space. And I'm telling the defender, whoever's going De'Aaron Fox, send him my way. Yeah. Forcing that pass to DeMar DeRozan just because DeMar DeRozan isn't a known three-point shooter. That's where the spacing can be problematic. But, again, there are a plethora of cons to why DeMar DeRozan will be an upgrade on that team. But we'll see. Harrison Barnes was a good complementary piece for that team, man. He had a really good role there. And now he's in
San Antonio.
Well,
who made some interesting moves this summer? Are they going to be in the running for a play-in spot? Depends on how good Wemby is. We'll get into the Olympics later, but some of the French footage from Wemby.
Yeah, it looks ridiculous. He had a tip slam the other day. Didn't make any sense. Anytime a player shoots a three and follows his own shot and dunks it, it's just special. Spurs reminded me of Houston last year. They signed some vets and everybody's like, what are they doing? I thought they were rebuilding. And they're like, we kind of want to win some games.
Yeah. It's a little bit of both. And they have the money to spend, right? I like Harrison Barnes. I think he shot 38% from three last year, so he helped space the floor for Wemby. We both agreed last year watching the Spurs, they needed to add some talent around Wemby. It's one thing to be this young team that's up and coming. It's another thing to just have kind of Wemby and everyone else you're just not even into at all. They needed a point guard. Chris Paul's, I think that's a perfect fit for what they're trying to do and how he can.
That was a great pickup.
That was great. I think we both loved that. 1 year, $11 million, tradable.
Chris?
Yeah.
And I think Chris adds 6 points a game. Yeah. I'm not even kidding. I think Chris adds 6 points. That's a lot, but yes, I believe that to Victor's PPG. I think he gets easier looks. Their offense will be much cleaner. Bro, last year it was chaos. They would get a rebound, and if Victor didn't have that ball, one of those point guards that they had, no offense, man.
Well, Sohan was the point guard in the beginning of the year.
And he's very far from being an NBA point guard.
Yeah.
Very far. And he's an NBA player. He does a lot of good things out there, plays with high energy. I like Sohan.
Yeah.
Just not at the point guard spot. I like him in that Dennis Rodman role. And I'm not just saying that because he looks like him and dyes the hair and has the old thing. I'm saying that because that's what his game's like.
Yeah.
He's out there like he's not a high skilled guy.
He's just causing havoc. He's just running around making things.
And I'm not
closer
comparing to Josh Hart.
Closer like a Tayshaun Prince.
Yeah, so Josh Hart, Tayshaun Prince type guy than than a point guard, man. That's just insane.
Right.
And then like Tyus Jones is a good player, but he's
Trey Jones.
I'm sorry. Trey Jones is a good player. He's not an NBA starting point guard.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, he could be a guy who come off the bench and give you a couple minutes a half.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a guy that you start the game with and like you run the NBA point guard with.
Right.
So now you have Chris Paul there. Even at his age, will be able to set up Victor, and I think we'll add to his points per game. I think Victor has a big time year.
I feel like Harrison Barnes is in the same. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I know you played against him in college, right? So you know Harrison's game pretty well.
Yeah.
I feel like Harrison Barnes to me is in the same realm of a Tobias Harris as far as these guys. I like that think about them and think that they could do more. But then you could watch a game where they don't really affect the game at all. But they're good and capable players. Like to you, who's better, Tobias Harris or Harrison Barnes? But do you see what I mean as far as the comparison?
They're very close. It's a good comparison. They both have been guys who have been paid handsomely. Harrison, you could say, has been contract comparable, comparing him to players with his stat range, what he's done for teams. He
was a starter on the team with the best record in NBA history.
Yeah, Warriors.
He was on Team USA in 2016.
Yeah.
His resume looks great, but I just always feel like, even in high school, coming out, he was the best player in high school. I think he's always going to leave me wanting a little more because I think he could do so much.
Well, people thought Harrison was going to be a perennial all-star.
Yeah.
In fact, they thought both of us were coming out. And, it just didn't work out that way. A lot of that's due to situation and amongst other things. But Harrison's always been a really, really good player. On whatever team he's played for, he's gotten minutes. And we have never heard a sniff of problems with him.
I mean, didn't the Mavericks trade him while he was on the bench still at one point?
Yes.
He didn't know about it.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of went through drama-free.
No, he's the least problematic player. That's part of their get. Tobias Harris the same way. There's a lot of things you could say about Tobias Harris. Unprofessionalism has never, ever been in the same sentence with him.
Yeah.
He is like the ultimate professional. He comes in work. He dresses a certain way. He talks to people a certain way. He's never late. He's on time. He does this. He's very consistent in his manner as a professional. I think that goes into the intrigue of like, why don't we bring a Harrison Barnes? Detroit. Why don't we bring in Tobias? He's a great guy.
Right.
That matters, man. Especially with teams who are young, San Antonio and Detroit, both trying to rebuild and have these young talent around good pros. I don't think Trajan Langdon gives a fuck about what Tobias Harris had in game 6 or 7 last year.
Yeah. This is what you're just reminding me of is, guys like you said, like Tobias Harris and Harrison Barnes who do everything right off the court, which is why they're more attractive to bring onto your team. To any young players out there, do everything right off the court so that there's nothing people could say bad about you when you do play bad.
I can't tell you enough, man.
Yeah.
I look back at things I've done in my career and I'm like, God damn, man. If I just would have went about some just minor things differently, whether it's just being a little earlier to the planes, being a little earlier to the bus.
Yeah.
Say my practice at 11, my shooting time's at 10. Don't get there at 9:40.
Yeah.
Get there at 9:15. Have breakfast, be in the weight room, stretch, go see the training room. I know it's annoying. I know you don't always want to do it. It cleans up all the little shit to where now when they talk about paying you millions, all that stuff is out of there. Like, yo, this guy's
your reputation is bulletproof.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's been incredible.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start off with that. Point A, you're already off the top making more money because of that.
Yeah.
And that's why people are like, man, Tobias Harris, how does he keep getting away with this? Or Harrison Barnes, they keep paying this guy. Bro, these dudes are like premium professionals, man.
Yeah.
And I know this because I know Tobias very well, and I know Harrison. I know how they are, and I know how people talk about them. And that's always one of the first things they do. They don't talk about Tobias's mid-range. They don't talk about Tobias's this and that. They say Tobias is a very consistent professional, man, and we like that. And that's part of his whole get-up. And then you get to the court where like he's been notorious to be a guy that's going to give you 15 a night. That's been his thing, and that's what keeps these guys getting these type of numbers. Tobias just signed another large 2-year deal, bro. Yeah. He's making $25 million a year. But Tobias Harris is going to out-earn like Kevin Garnett. Like it's it's insane, bro. You know what I mean? But these guys have really good qualities about them. So shout out to both of them.
But what you just reminded me, and you said you wish you would have done some things differently when you were coming up. But I could argue that also. So for example, if you weren't playing as much as you should have, that ego and that kind of confidence you had in yourself is also the reason you got there too. That's what makes it tricky.
It's I don't know if it's a catch-22, but it's just like one of those things where a part of you that makes you great can also be a part of your downfall. And that's where like you can't ever be afraid to change. Just because something's got you somewhere in life doesn't mean that has to be the antidote for like your success for the rest of your life. Doesn't mean it has to be like like, bro, you can change. And there are things where it's even down to my jump shot. My two-handed jump shot that I shot my entire life, I would refuse to change my first 8 years in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, it got me this far. I was the number one ego.
Right.
And I changed my jump shot, and I'm a 10 times better shooter now. And I don't even play right now. I'm not even in the league right now. And I shoot way better than I've ever shot in the NBA right now. Because my ego got me there. So it's like, you can't ever be afraid to change just because something's got you something.
Look at a guy like Kevin Love. You know, he was All-American, one and done, was amazing in Minnesota. Could have easily been like, well, this is what got me here. But obviously changed his diet, changed everything about him. He's still signing 2-year deals.
His life looks so consistent and peaceful, and just, this guy's always in the fucking woods somewhere in the middle of goddamn who knows. He's just traveling, dressed in like Cuccinelli with his wife, and they're just on a horse, and they're traveling to a river stream nearby, and they're in the mountains, and then he's in Egypt.
There's no wasted days.
Bro, this dude is just always everywhere. And then he gets deal after deal after deal. Bro, these guys sometimes don't even play. Like, he has years where I don't even remember. Do you remember a play last year of Kevin Love in Miami? Like, again, he played, but it's like, he's just, again, another professional.
Right.
The one thing you know about Kevin Love, where he's like an amazing guy, professional, and he has a hell of a career.
You could argue he was the best power forward in the NBA at one point when he was in Minnesota.
It was a 20 and 20 machine, man. This guy's out here, like, people forget how really good he was. And then his arc, like in high school, he was the man. In college, he was the man. Then he goes into Minnesota as a dog. Cleveland wins a chip. He's got a lot there. Multiple All-Stars, multiple max contracts. He's doing his stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know. I always see him just like, that guy impresses me.
I want to say something about DeMar DeRozan before we switch subjects. I also didn't like the signing when he went to Chicago originally, when I saw him with Vooch and Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball. And I was like, you know, the way he plays, he was kind of at that point where he was in San Antonio and we kind of forgot about him in those years. But he played really, really well and he made it fit. So that's him being good in Chicago. And let's not forget, before Lonzo Ball got hurt, that team was number 1 in the East at one point. They were playing really well. People really liked that team. So the fact that he was able to fit there and prove everyone wrong when he signed with Chicago, I do hold out a little hope that he can come here, and even though you're worried about the lack of shooting and spacing and the fit, he is just overall putting more talent on the court. There's something to be said about that.
And that's what we talked about. The cons are his shooting from 3-point range. They're a notorious 3-point team. That's why they have Herter and Monk and Murray and all these guys firing that three. And that's why guys like Davion Mitchell, some of these other guys have struggled.
Less defense, more offense.
To get consistent minutes there is because like they can shoot the ball well. And like De'Aaron Fox needs space. He's a guy who has one of the quickest first steps in basketball. He's very fast. And then you got the pick and roll game with him and Sabonis. They want spacing around those guys. So when they're doing their thing, guys can open shots. So that's why I'm like, from a fit standpoint, I don't know if DeMar DeRozan fits the best. But to your point, sometimes like good players just figure it out. And like the Bulls are like, man, listen, he might not fit, but we got DeMar DeRozan on the team. We're going to throw him out there. And guess what? Like, it did look pretty damn good.